Hi folks, this is Alan Watt, cutting through the matrix. Going through this article about reality that was in Le Monde concerning the tricks that are played on the public, which should take for granted to swallow it because they've been brainwashed with commercial television. And as long as you put the same kind of scenarios in the backgrounds and so on, you think it's all quite real and natural. You swallow it because you've been brought up gorging on marketing techniques without even knowing it. It says here, Scott Sforza, a former ABC TV producer who worked within the Republican propaganda machine, created many backgrounds against which Bush made important statements during his term of office. On May the 1st, 2003, he stage-managed the presidential speech on the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier before a sign-reading mission accomplished. Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed. The show didn't end there. Bush landed aboard the carrier on a fighter plane renamed Navy One. On it was written, George Bush, Commander-in-Chief. He was seen leaving the cockpit dressed in a flight suit, his helmet under his arm as if he were returning from war in a remake of Top Gun, the film produced by Harry Bruckheimer, who was a familiar face in Hollywood Pentagon operations. He made a reality TV show, Profiles from the Front Line, on the war in Afghanistan. The former New York Times theater critic Frank Rich described the television coverage of this event and said it was fantastic, like theater. David Broder of the Washington Post was captivated by what he called Bush's physical posture. Sforza had to stage the scene carefully so that the city of San Diego, about 60 kilometers away, was not seen on the horizon when the carrier was supposed to be out in open sea in a combat zone. But the staging was never as explicit as on 15th of August 2002, when Bush solemnly spoke of national security in front of Mount Rushmore with the sculptures of the faces of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. During his speech, the cameras were placed at an angle that allowed Bush to be filmed in profile, his face superimposed onto those of his predecessors. The image becomes the story for Bush's speech on the first anniversary of 9/11, in which he prepared U.S. public opinion for the Iraq invasion by glorifying the great struggle. Great struggle. They love these struggles, like Mein Kampf, my struggle. They love this word, struggle, that tests our strength and even more our resolve. Sforza rented 3 barges to take the team to the foot of the Statue of Liberty, which he had lit from below. He chose the camera angle so that the statue appeared in the background during the speech. Frank Rich, commentating on this, quoted Michael Deaver, who stage-managed Ronald Reagan's Declaration of Candidacy speech in 1980 with the Statue of Liberty in the background. According to Deaver, people understood that what was around the speaker's head was as important as the head itself. What is around the head turns an image into a legend. Mission accomplished. The Founding Fathers, the Statue of Liberty. Over time, the image becomes the story, but the event must resonate with the viewer, must make 2 moments interact, what is represented in the image and the actual moment it is seen. This resonance produces the desired emotion. Emotion, you see, imprinting by emotion. For Americans in 2002, nothing could have had a greater emotional impact than a speech on war on the first anniversary of 9/11. The country had just come back from summer holidays and was ready to concentrate on important matters. According to Ira Chernos, professor at the University of Colorado, Karl Rove applied the Scheherazade strategy. When policy dooms you, start telling stories. Stories so fabulous, so gripping, so spellbinding that the king, or in this case the American citizen who theoretically rules our country, forgets all about a lethal policy. It plays on the insecurity of Americans who feel that their lives are out of control. Rove did this with much success in 2004 when Bush was re-elected, diverting voters' attention away from the state of the war by evoking the great collective myths of the U.S. imagination. As Chernos explains, Rove was betting that the voters would be mesmerized by John Wayne-style tales of real men fighting evil on the frontier. At least enough Americans to avoid the death sentence that the voters might otherwise pronounce on the party that brought us the disaster in Iraq. Chernos believed that Rove invented simplistic good against evil stories for his candidates to tell and try to turn every election into a moral drama, a contest of Republican moral clarity versus Democratic moral confusion. The Scheherazade strategy was a great scam built on the illusion that moralistic tales can make us feel secure no matter what's actually going on out there in the world. Rove wants every vote for a Republican to be a symbolic statement. This August, Rove was forced to resign by Democrat members of Congress. He announced his decision with an admission which could apply to all his work. I feel like I'm Moby Dick. They're after me. Well, I guess he had a whale of a time there. And you can also get that at this particular article at www.mindfully.org. I'll be back with more on reality after this break.